Today is a slightly different type of episode, one that I am really looking forward to because it is a Q&A session. It's frequently asked questions, and somebody who I've been connected with on LinkedIn, actually, favorite platform, has reached out to me and suggested that we catch up on topics that are burning questions for so many professionals, especially if you are looking to either make a career jump or change, but you're not quite sure what's next. But at the same time, if you want to reestablish yourself in a different country, in a different industry, different profession, where to start, what to look out for, and everything in between. So we're looking forward to welcoming Veronica Llorca-Smith today. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Petra. So first of all, it is really my pleasure to be here. I'm a big fan of yours. I've been following you on LinkedIn a lot of months, and it's really exciting to finally have this opportunity. So just a little bit about myself. So I'm originally Spanish, but I've been living in Hong Kong and Asia and working there for the past 15 years or so. And I recently moved to Australia. It was very accidental. It was a COVID courtesy. So I moved here with my children. And for the first time in almost 2 decades of work experience, I have found myself having this break, and an intentional break from work. So I've been out of the labor force really for around four months. And now I'm looking at going back. I know that a lot of people are in a similar situation, whether it's people who have been unfortunately laid off, or maybe parents that had a break to take care of their babies, or even people who voluntarily wanted to step out. And now I'm really trying to get back into it, but it's quite daunting for myself. It's a new country, it's new people, the work market keeps changing every day. And making that first step can be very, very daunting. So I would love to have your thoughts on how to really make that first step.
Oh, excellent question. And I'm really grateful that you mentioned it's quite daunting, because so many face exactly the same challenge, but they don't want to admit that it's daunting. And it starts with acknowledging that it isn't easy. Like, any change is not easy. If you want to eat healthier and you were a junk food fan, then it's not easy to swap. And the same goes for re-entering the market. And I would always say it's, confidence doesn't show up. Confidence is a byproduct of being courageous and also being clear. So I would always give the recommendation to start with really identifying what is my strength. What is it that I'm naturally driven by? What are the results that I've achieved from previous roles? Or what is it that people are praising me for already, or are coming to me for advice? Because there is a sweet spot. And in the end, if you want to shape your future, want to create your own commercial opportunities or career opportunities, it comes down to you being really clear what you can bring in terms of a result, a tangible result, a irresistible offer to an organization. Because no matter if you go back into a corporate role or if you want to start your own business, we are a product and we want to see ourselves as a product. How can we package our expertise, experience, education, and obviously our characteristics, our personality into an irresistible say yes to me solution, because it's valuable for somebody. So if we, quickly brainstorm in your own situation, what are 2 or 3 results that you are super proud of, that you have achieved, that have made also a big impact in the organizations that you work with or the brands that you've been part of?
So personally for me, I think some of the big achievements have been to lead teams that were culturally very different. So in my last job, for example, at Estee Lauder in Asia Pacific, I was managing teams in 14 different countries. And for me to be able
crazy
to be able to have these meetings, plus the challenge of the technology. So all these meetings through Zoom, where people speak different languages, you have introverts, you have extroverts, and be able to have these conversations where everyone feels that they can add to the conversation. I think for me, that was one of the big wins in my careers. The second one that I think is really important is, because I have been through all these different jobs, I have seen what works and what doesn't, meeting different people, I've been able to develop different teams in their career, and also even personally. So I understand how to coach, and how as a leader is not about you, it's about the person that you're leading, and really trying to shift even your style, the way that you're coaching someone based on who they are, what are their challenges, what are their opportunities. So it's something that I have been working a lot. I used to think that it was about me as a leader, but it's really about the employee and the person that you have in front of you and how you really understand, how you really care about them. So I think for me, this ability to really work with multicultural teams and the passion for developing people is two of the things that have made me successful in the past.
So good. And this is already a very big step forward, because, you know, when we talk about the trust and authority principle, it's about being the translator. And it starts with translating your credentials and your expertise into something really tangible. And a couple of things that I picked up on is global and multicultural teams. Now, especially COVID-19 has fast-tracked that, and companies also, especially in Australia, because of the talent shortage, Australian companies have to look into other solutions to get skilled talents on board. And it's often to hire contractors or consultants from all over the world. And I know, working with a few of multinational companies, for leaders, it's not hard to manage cultures. You know, every culture has their own way of communicating and responding to different situations and challenges. So that's a big challenge already. The other thing that I picked up on is also coaching in terms of getting the best out of people. And this is exactly what we need now to prepare for the future of work. It's not just how can I get the most out of my existing team, but the best. And that requires me to think what other skills or strengths would be really beneficial to my organization that future-proofs us. How can I bring in the entire person, not just their skill set, but the entire person with all the highs and lows into my organization, that we can bring in new skills that we may not even have considered yet. So let's say we are a project manager, or we're working with a project manager, but this person's personal interest is YouTubing and videography. And obviously video is also a big trend that we want to look into from a marketing perspective. So how can I leverage this personal interest from a project manager who on paper has nothing to do with creating videos for the company, but how can I connect their personal interest and strength to my organization? So even that you can pick things up, that is actually a really big trait. And for companies, what we want to do now is we want to develop this value proposition. Same, you know, and you can also back up your claims of multicultural teams because you have lived on incredibly in nine countries. Like that shows obviously resilience. And it also shows that you are highly adaptable, that you can, you know, get thrown in the deep end, not knowing what to expect, who to talk to, but you can find your way, and being also resourceful with it. So these are the traits that I would focus on if we want to position and brand you in a way that resonates with people. So it's always starts with you getting clear on where you are now, what do you want to focus on moving forward, and then connecting it with current and future trends from the economy. What are companies looking for? What's the next big thing? And how can I connect my background and my personality with the future?
Mm-hmm. Love it. Thank you. And talking about the connections, when I look at how to find a job, a question that many people have, it is all about connections. It is really all about finding the right people, creating relationships. Ultimately, you want to have that trust, but it all starts with a human element. And so building your network is super critical. I had a fantastic network when I was in Hong Kong. I didn't even think about enhancing my network, to be honest. And then you move to a new place, or maybe you want to change industries and you realize that your network is either too small or it might not be too relevant, and you want to start building your network. And for many people who are either new or they're going through this transition, it's difficult because you're putting yourself out there. You don't really know where to get started. For me, I'm really working on my network, specifically with a focus on Australia. So I've done things like putting myself out there. My content that I create is not perfect.
We've lost you. We've lost you.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, hang on. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can't hear me? Hello? I'm gone. Let me try.
Hang on.
No?
I've lost you. I can't hear you anymore.
Should I call again? Should I call again? Wait.
Let's try this again.
Yes.
Can you try to speak.
Hello? It's working for me.
What is happening?
I'll leave the meeting.
Because try it again.
Yes. Hello? Should I call again?
One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hmm. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you again. I'm not too sure what happened. I think it was an issue with my headset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to start where we left off, or just start?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So about building a network, this is really one of the big projects that I have right now. First, because I love connecting with people. It's a great way for me to get to meet new people in a new country. But also, I think it's really important to have your own network in the workplace. And I've been following you. I know that this is one of your areas of expertise. I just hit the 2,000 mark of followers on LinkedIn, which I'm very excited about. And it's something that I keep on working. It's something that I'm doing every day. There is a lot of room to improve, and I would love to hear some tips that you have for myself, but also from other people that want to build, that want to increase their network.
Excellent question. And you are so spot on that your network, we've all heard that your network is your net worth. And I always say your diverse network is your next career opportunity, because this person who you know might not be the decision maker or the person who can open doors, but this person would know somebody else. And this is where the real magic happens. And at the same time, over 80% of jobs are actually never getting advertised, especially senior roles. It's very much who you know or who knows of you, how you can actually get into those senior roles. There are a few ways how to build your network. So firstly, congratulations on the 2,000 followers on LinkedIn. This is a big milestone, and it takes a lot of effort to actually build that. So congratulations. This is one aspect. And fostering that, which we're going through in a second, is a big part to get ahead, but this is not the only part. The other way how I would build my network, and this is also how I did it when I came to Australia, is I joined interest groups. So it started with a triathlon squad, which I was with them for 6-7 years, and quite a few of those have become clients over the years. So you never know where things lead to. So, and you also said before we started recording that you are into sports. So I would already think, where is an interest group that's not necessarily always professional, but you know, especially successful professionals usually are sporty and they are active. So there we go. So think of, you know, is there a swim team like on the Gold Coast, beautiful outdoor sports area, or is it a gym that you want to join? This is one part. And then also being very proactive to arrange a coffee after the session, because this is where the real networking happens. Then another really good way to network is to go to industry events or to meetup groups. Again, there are so many online and offline, but this is how you can more so build your professional network. We've got, I think, at least 1 or 2 events a day in Brisbane and on the Gold Coast on different topics and areas. And in the second, you see who's the event organizer, and you know, you've commented, for example, on their post a couple of times on LinkedIn, just to become familiar and friendly, and then go to an event. Then the next step that I would do is to pitch yourself as a speaker and say, you know, I've seen over the last 3 months you've covered topic A, B, and C. The angle that I could bring to this big topic would be X, Y, and Z. Because, you know, having hosted my own meetup events for 6 years, I know I've always looked for speakers. So the same what you did with me, reaching out and saying, let's do a podcast. I was like, yes, hell yes, you know, great. It saves me from doing another solo episode. So sometimes we need to think and give some solutions to somebody who could potentially support us, because not everyone thinks all the time about others, how we can support them. And this is also why it's so important to have a clear positioning, because if you say, well, I could do this and I could do that, and I'm also really good at this, people are like, nah, okay, I don't know what it is, so I don't even engage you. And, you know, it's the hard part. But yeah, there are already a couple of ideas. So LinkedIn, commenting on other people's posts. This is a big one, because again, it comes down to how many touch points do we have until we trust somebody. Then personal interest groups, how can we get friendly through a mutual interest? And then also professional network events and meetup groups, and then pitching yourself to be a speaker. So there are a few tips to get started.
Thank you. And I'm really excited that you are a triathlete, because I am too. I am an Iron woman, so that is actually my
Perfect
passion. But you did bring a really good point. People, I believe, including myself, we tend to think of our personal network as one network and our work network as a different one. And you brought a really good point that it isn't really relationship, it's just about relating with other human beings. And so having this approach of one network, a cohesive network, I think is a great point. So thank you.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm glad you picked up on that, because even on my LinkedIn profile, on the bottom, I say, if I don't create a future of work, you can find me. And then I've got a few personal interests or hobbies listed, because this is what makes it easy for others to connect. And I say, you find me on my Cannondale. And people who are in triathlon or in bike riding, they know it's a brand, a particular brand. And they say, oh, no way, I've got a Cannondale too. Which one is yours? So what we do with that, we establishing a mutual connection, and that makes shifting into a professional conversation a lot easier, because it's not pushy. It's not like, hey, give me a job, I want to sell you something, because this is where we get put off straight away. Whereas if we find something that we've got in common, I really like you, and then we've got a couple more conversations, I trust you, and then all of a sudden I overhear a conversation, or I meet with a person who's looking for somebody, and this is the chain effect, how things happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we've been talking about how to build your network and how really to transfer your skills across. And one thing that is key for me, and I'm going to be very vulnerable, in my past years, especially as I became more senior and I worked for powerhouse brands like Apple or Estee Lauder, I almost became, I made this connection between who I am and that brand. So I would say I am Veronica from Apple, and that's how I would introduce myself, or Veronica from Estee Lauder. And by doing that, I was really associating my own identity with the brand that I was working for. And now that I'm not working for any brand, I am challenged with the question of, who are you as a brand? And I'm realizing that the biggest brand that I can ever invest in is not Apple or Estee Lauder or the next company that I'm going to work for, is really myself. So this is a process that I'm getting starting on, like, how do I want to be known for? What are the skills that I really want people to associate with Veronica? Who is Veronica? Like these questions outside the companies that I'm working for. I know that this is an area of your expertise as well. You're an authority in the field. And for people who are starting with this journey of really branding themselves, what are the tips that you have?
And honestly, it's such a great pickup with associating your title or your job or your seniority with your value and with your identity, because it happens all the time. We get, we are growing up with the mindset that when you've got the senior title or this big income or this massive car, then you've quote unquote made it. So we are often associating our title and our worth with our identity. And then COVID happens, or an industry is gone, or the role is no longer required. And we are in this identity crisis because we've never asked ourselves the question, what am I beyond my title? What am I beyond this status? If everything would get stripped away, who am I as a person? And a couple of aspects that I would always people challenge on is, what is it in the first place that you brought to those places? Like, yes, there was this role, but at the same time, you also contributed something. And, you know, in your case, for example, you are highly adaptable. You learn quickly, because living in 9 different countries is a challenge as it is. And that means, you know, leveraging also the halo effect. We often associate a positive or a negative from one aspect and translate that into another aspect. So when I think you've lived in 9 different countries, you're multilingual, you are able to be empathetic, you are able to meet people at their level where they are at, you are probably very resilient when it comes to launching new projects, when it comes to trusting you very quickly because you had to build a rapport very quickly. And then at the same time, so these are some of the personality traits that you want to focus on and tell your story. Same, updating your LinkedIn profile straight away and leading with this, with your personal story. Having lived and worked in 9 countries, the one thing that I've learned is it all comes down to people, or something like that, if you want to be perceived as the multicultural leader. So we want to be very clear what it is beyond the job title. If you want to work for brand A or for yourself, it doesn't matter. This is the trait, the strength, the personality that you bring to the table. But that's also creating value for others. And also with your friends, with your family, what do they value about you? Because they couldn't be bothered which title you've got. They're probably more happy that you are at home now rather than flying across the world and being constantly stuck in meetings. What is it that you get joy of spending time with them? This is your personality. This is what nobody can take away. And then also getting really clear on your own values, which will also help to identify what is a next suitable role, opportunity, company, brand to work with, and which ones do we rather say thank you, but no thank you. Meaning, what is it that you spend your time on and your money on and your energy on? So if you go through your bank statement, for example, did you spend a lot of money on books, for example, and you enjoy reading and learning? Or is it more on activities or on experiences or whatever it might be, that you see what is it that I'm drawn to that? Is it the competitiveness? Is it the enjoyment level? Is it the connecting with people aspect? Because, you know, money speaks louder than words often, or our actions. And where do I spend my time on and why? And then connecting it with what kind of roles, industries, brands would connect with that. Who is already looking for a similar value that I can bring beyond the job title? So this is probably where I would start rethinking what I can bring and what I've brought already to the different groups, personal, professional, and then getting clear on the values that I want to live by and with, and companies that already live those values, and we can find a match.
I love it. I love this idea of connecting your passions and how you want to spend your time with something that is meaningful to you, that is aligned with your values. And it's exactly the process that I am going through. One of my traits is actually being very positive and optimistic, and I do love motivating people. And so I would love to finish this podcast today by encouraging people to put themselves out there, to get out of the comfort zone. For me, this is my first podcast. I had so many excuses on how I couldn't do it. I don't have time, it's too difficult, I don't know the technology. And there was something that you said that related to me. And you wrote, Veronica, don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's one of the things that I would tell everyone. Go out there, it doesn't have to be perfect. The second advice, and this is more from myself, is be yourself. It's your story, it's you, there is only one you, so tell your story to the world. So that's my 2 cents, and I would love to hear also your advice.
Oh, I couldn't have summed it up any better. And honestly, your first interview goes to show that you can use all your background experience and your skill sets in a different setting, because you can rely on you showing up as a good connector and communicator. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. And also it proves the point when we talked about being adaptable, meeting people where they're at. Like, we literally met 2 minutes before we actually started recording, and it's such an easy conversation. So I've got no doubt whatsoever that you can get thrown into a really difficult team also, and you would be able to find connections very quickly. So absolutely, there is nothing that's perfect. Like, we are all we are all perfect imperfection. No, it's the other way around. We are all imperfect perfectly. Tongue twister. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps us curious. We want to learn. And honestly, I couldn't praise you any higher that you did this step, that you reached out, that you were uncomfortable, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And I want to see you on many more podcasts, on meetup events, on panels, on all the stages there are.
Thank you so much, Petra. I think this was great for me. And I also hope this will motivate and inspire other people out there who might be in a similar situation and just want to make their very first step. So thank you so much, and see you in the next triathlon.
Perfect. Thank you, Veronica.